What is up and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Halloween month edition of Worth Watch with me, Anthony Flores. Bride of Frankenstein. This is a movie where I had no idea how entertaining this is going to be, and I was very fortunate to have got to see this classic on the big screen. Basically, the whole driving force to the original film, the first Frankenstein, the Dr. Frankenstein creates his monster from various body parts and stuff like that. We know the story, but for the sequel, which was technically not, I think it was like very troubled in terms of production. A lot of things could have gone wrong, and you can definitely see some of the edits to the film were definitely a little bit jarring, and even for that time, in that time period, you can tell, yeah, some of the moments were just not the greatest, but in terms of entertainment value and how fast this movie goes, it's only about an hour and 15 minutes long. I have every understanding in why this is a classic. This movie is entertaining. It's got great atmosphere. It captures a lot of these darker moments, especially just starting right off the bat from the way the first film ends. Basically, you have such jarring performances, like you have very subtle and very heartfelt moments, especially through Boris Karlof as the monster. He actually gets dialogue compared to the first film where it was just mostly grunts, a lot of that classic stuff. This time around, he actually has a bit of dialogue and able to communicate with a blind man that he befriends about halfway into the movie. And that's definitely where a lot of the heartfelt moments come from, is that you see the monster just is looking for somebody to communicate with, versus just everyone's just like, grab your torch and pitchforks. That's basically where things go awry, and that kind of situation still happens. Everybody does literally get their pitchforks and torches. Yeah, that's pretty bad, of course. And the monster flees the town, especially. Well, the monster murdered people, so he has it coming to an extent. But yeah, he's definitely misunderstood up until he murders people more, and it's just things get rather convoluted. That's where I can see the production troubles that supposedly ended up happening behind the scenes with this movie, especially with the director and the main actor who portrayed Dr. Frankenstein. Apparently he had a lot of, well, if I understood correctly, he was actually drunk quite a bit of the time, just for the random production and stuff like that. So that's definitely not a good thing when one of your lead actors is definitely supposedly drunk off his ass. I don't know how true these situations were, but that's just random bits of information I've read and just random areas of the internet, in terms of like not just Wikipedia but just actual like websites where people reviewed the film in depth. And I could be conscrewing some of that information, so take my thoughts on that with a grain of salt, because I don't know how true a lot of things were, aside from the various bits of research I saw. But in terms of diving back into the movie, the whole plot is that there's a secondary doctor, Dr. Pretorius, and I don't know about you all, but when I hear the word Pretorius, I just think the Mask, the animated series. So that's just me. Anybody remember that one? Nope. Kudos if you do. Awesome. From there, he is just trying to get Dr. Frankenstein to get back in the saddle to recreate another monster and basically play God is what this guy is really after, even though Frankenstein himself is just like, no, I don't want to do that. This is not something I want to do. I've learned my lesson. I created a murderer. I don't want to do that again. But then he tempts him with his own experiments, and then he's just like, okay. And from there, we end up having the whole movie's driving force that Dr. Pretorius sets up, especially befriending the monster himself, wanting him to, create a mate for him. He's just like, you want a friend? Oh, we'll build you a friend. The bride is only in this movie for about 5 minutes, if that, closer to the end of the film, and I'll tell you why. She is unfortunately just a plot device. She is just the end goal for the monster to be happy to an extent, and for Dr. Pretorius to be like fulfilling his goal of creating life once again, and for his own crazy agenda in his head. And Dr. Frankenstein slowly but surely dives into his mad self again, and just the whole it's alive, that whole thing. And from there, the irony to the whole situation, there is so much trouble literally to, of course, once again, get the body parts for, the young female that they chose. And then from there, to get the heart beating, they go through that whole process. And all for everything to go to shit, and for Frankenstein to be like, you know what? Yeah, I was wrong. Yeah, I was really wrong. And the bride herself comes to life, and then everything goes to hell, mainly because uh, she has not much of a character. She just does this for the whole 5 minutes she's on screen, and screams and shouts and whatever for a few moments. And the Frankenstein and the monster tries to befriend her, just tries to hold her hand, and then she's just like, ah, like, you know, just no, just don't touch me. Yeah, thanks. Just stay over there. And he goes into a rage. Everything goes to hell. He starts killing people again, and yeah, and it just basically ends with the monster just basically pulling a lever and just detonating the whole place to explode. And Frankenstein and his wife, who was also, by the way, captured in the midst of all this. That's another reason why he even ended up doing this whole situation to begin with, because the monster ended up taking his fiance, and things happen, blackmail and whatever. There is a lot of inspiration behind a lot of horror films in this movie, and I very much enjoyed the atmosphere. Even the performances, is kind of convoluted as the story itself was, and how he got to point A to point B. The actor, I forget the actor's name that portrayed Dr. Frankenstein, but he was really great anyways, despite his possible trouble. The actress who portrays his fiance, she's pretty good as well. And, of course, Boris Karlof giving it 110%. The guy was a legend, and he still is a legend today for his portrayal within a lot of the Universal horror films. I still think there's a lot of potential. There's rumors of the remake, even though The Mummy 2017 tanked that idea. I still think it was, forget the Dark Universe stuff. If that's not going to happen, I get it. There is so much intrigue for a possible entry for a horror franchise based around the original Universal monsters, but it didn't have to be done the way it was done in The Mummy. I think that the character has a lot of potential. Just the design of her is so intriguing, and it's the reason as to why she survived in memory for so many years already, with 5 minutes on screen of her just simply shouting and screaming and twitching. That's it. That's her character. And the fact that she hates the monster also. The irony of that whole situation, that everybody hated the monster, even his own bride. It's kind of a funny, ironic situation, but then, of course, yeah, he didn't take it so well. But in terms of potential, the character has a lot to it. I know there's different incarnations through like various people have made. I'm sure various like graphic novels or something behind the character, but in terms of a film, it'd be really interesting to see the future of what this character could be. She is truly a blank slate. You can do a lot with this character, and I would love to see some ideas unfold besides the whole Dark Universe thing that Universal tried so desperately to do. But that's a whole other video. So many things I enjoyed about the movie versus the negative that I pointed out here or there. So that should do it for another Halloween month episode of Worth a Watch with me, Anthony Flores. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all that other good stuff in between. And don't forget to check out our latest podcast, by the way, of the Fans Guide to Animation, our Halloween episode of our thoughts on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. That is currently up on my channel right now. So if you want to know our thoughts, check that out. So thanks again for watching, and keep going to the movies.